within small numbers. And to commemorate this, my brother Gary wrote the following poem called Requiem for a River. There once was a river that flowed fair and free, with crystal clear waters from source to the sea, where I fished for the sea trout, the salmon, the eel, but no more, for they've poisoned my own river field. From Tour to the Cashin I've waded your streams, caressed by your waters while you haunted my dreams. But your beauty is tarnished, your fate is well sealed. Now the maiden's a strumpet, my soiled river field. I've watched you meander to green Shannon shore, past the ruins of castles where in days of yore our fathers protected you with swords of bright steel. Now your own have despoiled you, my sweet river field. Where the kingfisher flashed like a rainbow on fire, with heron and coot while the gadding may fly, her death dance proclaiming what cannot be concealed, that pollution has killed you, my own river field. Will my son see the rings of a June evening rise, or cast a dry fly neath the warm summer skies, or watch the brown otter through the night waters steal? Lo, they've stolen his birthright from the banks of the field. Come all you polluters, pay heed to my song. Your effluent discharge has killed for too long. Give back to the people with rod and with reel the waters God gave them, a clean river field. I have referred to his surroundings as Hero Town. Hero Town was made up of many parts. The Glown, which was the village or the area which he replicated in his first novel, Children of the Rainbow, and he called it Clune. The marketplace, the forge, the harness maker's shop, the bookshop, the butcher shop, the square, the river, and the school. These were all areas within his Hero Town which he drew for inspiration. He said, I possessed a satisfactory knowledge of my town and its hinterland as a simple module of humanity. I now had a clear sense of being completely at home with the to and froing of the marketplace and the fair. I had a river flowing through my childhood, had experienced the game of life and death being played out at my door with the sheer exhilaration that accompanied it. Had attended the informal schoolroom of the Smith's kitchen, as well as the formal attendance at a classical college. I was fully conscious of the uniqueness of each human being. I had an ear for dialect and dialogue, and an oddball acquaintance with secret areas of local existence. What he meant by that was the tinkers. I had also a link with the past in the Irish language, and another with the world of literature through books, and definitely including a tenuous contact through Tom McGreevy and Dan Flavin with Joycey and Paris. A little anecdote. Tonight, the Distilled Drama Group, which I remember, are The Doing Blind Spirit, written by Noel Coward. And in that play, there is a line, you're behaving like a gutter snipe. Now, I'm indebted to my brother Jim for telling me that he heard the following story recounted to him by Tom McGreevy. Tom was living in Paris and was a member of the Joyce's set, and he was great friends with Beckett. And Somerset Maugham was in that as well. Coward hadn't yet arrived as an accepted author, and Coward was trying to ingratiate himself with Somerset Maugham, and he said to Maugham one day, Mr. Maugham, you must come and see my play. They say it's very good. And there was no taker. Maugham ignored him, and the second time Coward came back, Mr. Maugham, you must come, the critics say my play is very good. And Maugham turned around and said to him, Mr. Coward, you're behaving like a gutter snipe. Now, for that's a conversation that was held in Paris, yet we can talk about it on the banks of the field here today. Perhaps I'll move on, and we'll do something else on the way down. Didn't tell a story about a character stroke personality in this town who I was very fond of, and he was known as Danny Kelleher. And Danny, he was the original butcher boy that Christy Hennessy wrote about in his book. But Danny was made redundant, and years later Danny became the window cleaner in the square. And one of his houses was the McKenna household where we stopped it today. But Danny came to my father one day in trouble. Master, they're all stopping me and coming off buses and asking me about the history of the castle. Now Danny was a fantastic man for learning things off by rote. He'd recite Tang Malang Malu at the Cotter's Corner above her, he'd sing Dangerous Dan McGrew, or he'd sing Hang Me Under a Gooseberry Bush for you. So my father knew this facility in Danny, and he wrote out 2 paragraphs of Danny, and he said, Danny, there's a concise history of the castle. If anybody asks you again about the history of the castle, will you tell them that? So about A month later, my father met Danny, and he said to him, Danny, how are you getting on? Great, master. I'll tell you now. He says, a busload of Yanks pulled up yesterday. He says, and one of them caught me as I was coming off the ladder. He said, say, could you tell me something about the castle? And I gave him what you wrote me, and when I got it off by heart, I said it was 1600, it was siege, blah, 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 blah. And what was his reaction? The American says, say, for a simple window cleaner, don't you know an awful lot about history? And what did you say to him? I told him there was no surpassing a well-educated proletariat. And what was his reaction? The last time I saw him, he was bolting for the door of the bus. But they were the little epiphanies, the little stories, the little games that my father played out within the small town life. I could hold that, Vincent, will you? Make yourself useful. You're not supposed to read it, I can read it. He wrote that he wanted Listowel to become the centre of imagination. He harboured the absurd notion of motivating a small town in Ireland, a speck on the map, to become a centre of imagination. To this end, I pledged myself to accepting the narrow horizon of home as a boundary to my work area. Later I would move outwards. I can't say whether or not I contemplated my image in a mirror. It was a long-term goal to invent a centre of the imagination. He wrote the 1,000 roles of a book. A book can be a comforter, informer in the more ameliorative meaning of the word, healer, enthuser, sedative, elucidator, disturber of the peace, priest, Satan, Messiah, physician of mind and rabble-rouser. It can also be a scapegoat, a purgative of the imagination, an acrobat, a pickpocket of convictions, a warmonger, a peacemaker, an image maker, and therapeutic rehearser of personal agonies. It can be a finger post to areas of special beauty as well as a warning sign against dangerous cliffs ahead. Books are about every possible activity of the spirit, mind and body. If I were to press you to tell me what facet of living you like best, then I take you to a library and show you a row of books that would open up that activity for you to the fullest. A taste for reading is the finest fruit of education. Our whole lives move on words, so master words. And in the school context, he always did this, kept this in mind. To get a child to walk into a library and have him walk around confidently, select a book, have it stamped, and then walk out with a big book under his arm is a major step forward in his self-education. The hope is that later as an adult he will walk into a library or a bookshop anywhere in the world with the same confidence and the same sense of adventure. That is what he treasured books, and he had books everywhere in the house. So much so that my mother could never keep any room tidy. He had a writing room, but it became so crowded he had to leave it, and he couldn't see the top of the desk, the bottom of the desk, and he took over the sitting room table. And so much so that my mother in her late years began to moan that her lovely dining room mahogany table was festooned with papers. And she complained to my brother Gary one night, and Gary said, "Mother, the most organised and tidy place in the world are the war graves in Normandy." There's no life there.
Astute observation.
Or hound or man. Thanks be to God, Marie Brogan isn't here today. She'd let me know what Dublin should be any day. For we still dream of past glories. Why does a writer write? The reason a writer writes are as various as humanity itself. He writes for money, for vanity, for fame and distinction. The writer is a potter. He revels in the challenge of handling raw material in the hope that out of it he will fashion something of enduring veracity and beauty. He writes out of human blasphemy because he wishes to participate in the story of creation. Shove over God, he says under his breath. I want to muscle in on this creation business. The writer writes to show man as a perpetual hunter or a perpetual prey or an alternator of both roles. He writes out of a sense of cussedness to keep himself fully alive, and if you please, he aims to set himself up as an emperor of rectitude and coherency. He writes as a fortune teller. He writes to get rid of energy per se, and because in addition to being centrifugal and centrifugal, he is also systolic like the human heart or the flowing and ebbing of the tide. He is a verbalizing addict, a drunkard of words who likes to let off steam to relieve tension and to create an animated scene. This is with the ultimate aid of finding permanence, peace and inner harmony. Like Socrates, he indulges in question and answer, and is apt to compare himself to a hornet which God has placed on a city or people to sting it and keep it awake. That's an extract from the Storyman book, his autobiographical book. The other one that I'd like to try for you is, if you met my father, he would never say hello to you. Because what's the answer to hello? If I said hello, what would you say? Hello. That's it. End of story, end of conversation. No scale, no romance. He always reverted to the old Irish idiom of Céint cían will to, Chunus tatu, what way are you? And he had 40 different answers to that written down before he died. I give you right away. So we're now dealing with meeting various people on his walks of perambulations and saying, what way are you? Rude replies, I'm battling away bravely against blather and bowl. A fellow with a dose of the runs, I'm as smooth as silk and I'm as loose as ashes. I'm fair within and foul without. The drunken man says, pass along friend, I'm slightly oiled. Will you give one look at my buckety toes? Another man, cranky man, says, are you sure you have the leisure to wait for a comprehensive reply? Black hair, brown eyes, yellow skin. That's your beauty and my beauty, it's a trademark of the walls. Buried above here, they'll be opposite you three, first turn to the left, first turn to the right, 20, maybe 30 paces. Halt, black, ridgy wall. I love her, sir, I love her for her hair, her eyes and her skin. It's in 4 of my grandsons, I got 4 after myself and 4 after their foxy father. I can't stick foxy people. And as sure as Christ was Nelson, I suffered my share, but I have my health, indeed I have, sir. Over in Ballyhaig I am, sir, and I'm telling you no word of a lie, I'm over, sir. And I may be saying to the Almighty God, I start thinking of my son Timothy, Tidine we called him, that's above here in the sanatorium. And when I start thinking, sir, a battering ram couldn't come between me and my lovely boy. I sat into my daughter's car and covered the 14 Irish mile of ground I went in about. Hello, ma, says he laughing. He's my son, sir, my lawful godson. The hat rose up in me, but I held it back. Oh, yes, says I, I'm too full of fun. Where are you now, ma? In Ballyhaig, says I. I had my daughter's daughter with me, a bit of a child, he barely beginning to walk. Cuckoo, says he, gaming for the benefit of the child. The child was classy shy. We commenced laughing. You're a bad father, Tidine, unbeknownst to yourself. That's an account of his sister Bridgie having 2 more since you left. With that, he fell into laughing on account of he being a godfather unbeknownst to him. I left him there, standing at the window, advanced in his disease, and I take him to the road. I reached up my hand in his direction, sir, and I sitting into my daughter's green car. He stood there till we rounded the gate post. I tell you no word of a lie, so that's enough. Easter Saturday that was. At Christmas we were up in Newtown. Christmas is it, says I, and no Timothy. Came to Patrick's Day in the middle of my carouse, and I stopped and said, Patrick's Day and no Tidine. Up fair and no Timothy. The stone races, no Timothy. Standing at the window he was. Black hair, brown eyes, yellow skin. Buried above here he'd be opposite you three. First turn to the left, first turn to the right. 20, maybe 30 paces. Halt, black, heady, walk.